Welcome, class of 2027 parents and students. We're glad to have you joining us virtually tonight.
You'll be joining myself, Ms. Cara Fahey, school social worker.
And I'm Mrs. Weber, school counselor.
So tonight we're going to be talking about the 10 myths about your adolescence life at St. Louis Park Middle School.
So for our evening goals, as we're sure many of you have probably heard lots of things about the middle school, some of which are not true. We want to talk to you about what's reality versus what's fiction or myth. So our evening goals are,
So our goals tonight are to hopefully debunk some myths about your adolescence, to share some strategies and resources that we hope you will find helpful in having your student be successful socially, emotionally, and academically at the middle school, and to provide some constructive information around appropriate adolescent development. Hopefully answering the question, what have you done with my child?
So adolescents are known as the second toddlerhood, also known as the terrible teens.
So during this time socially, your child may present themselves as self-absorbed or moody, easily embarrassed. They can be quite sensitive. They like to challenge rules, argue, and test limits. But most importantly, one of the primary goals of this age is self-identification. So who am I? Where do I fit in? So you might notice them building more independence. That means separating from you as their parents. So some of that push-pull, I need you, but I don't really need you. A greater depth of curiosity and a desire for more knowledge, which is why they may push it back against rules, and obviously going through puberty, which can cause increased moodiness.
So cognitively, beginning to challenge the adult explanation. So you're probably realizing at this point that you, as a parent, know nothing. They know everything. They become more concerned with what is right, which meaning social justice. They enjoy learning new skills rather than reviewing previously learned topics. So that's so yesterday, don't tell me about that. Let's talk about new things. They can be a bit impulsive, ability to set goals now that maybe they weren't before, so they can look at more to the future, long term. And then they have an increased ability to concentrate. And while we know for some middle school students that can still be a challenge, you'll definitely notice that as they get through the middle school years that they begin to increase this ability each year.
So the next part of the presentation is really us going into myths versus facts. So the first slide will be a question about whether you believe this to be a myth or a fact, and then we'll go into the clarification and statement or information piece.
So myth number one, attendance doesn't matter as they are only in 6th grade. So as we said, that's a myth. The fact is that half of the students who miss 2 to 4 days in the month of September actually go on to miss nearly a month of school, if not more. So by 6th grade, chronic absences become a leading indicator if a student's actually going to drop out down the road in high school. So attendance is really important. And we've discovered that it's easy that once you miss 1 day, then it's a little easier to miss that 2nd day and that 3rd day, and then the pattern just continues.
So myth number 2, I am helping my student navigate middle school by dropping off items they've left at home, immediately stepping in to resolve peer conflict, speaking for them to teachers without consulting with them first, and helping my student with their homework. So myth or fact? If you guessed Myth, you are correct. So we want to allow our students opportunities to develop independence. As we talked about socially, that's the primary objective of this age group between 11 and 14. So by allowing them to make their own choices, problem solve for themselves, they also learn natural consequences of not doing that, so that hopefully eventually they'll get to a point where they are able to problem solve for themselves. We also want to teach students to be responsible and self-advocate, so making those connections with people in the building to get their needs met.
When parents tell their students, you need to study harder, students know exactly what they mean. Well, that's a myth. So in fact, they don't. You have to tell them specifically what they need to do. Example, this is also true for when you say go clean out your room or do a chore, only to arrive in their room and have everything shoved under the bed or in the closet. So you need to be able to set specific lengths of time to which they have to do it, suggestions for the appropriate study location. Probably maybe a kitchen counter or a desk is more sufficient than sitting on the couch or in the bed where it's cozy. What does studying actually look like, sound like, feel like? For many students coming in from the elementaries, they haven't really had to study often or much. And so this is going to be a learning curve for many of them.
Myth number 4, going to the school social worker, counselor, or dean's office means you are in big trouble. So obviously this is a myth. We work with many students and families to discuss a variety of issues that may be interfering with students' learning. Below is a bunch of listed issues that we address, in addition to many more. We hope that your student will feel comfortable coming down and advocating for themselves and making connections to get their needs met with us at school.
I don't have any homework, or I have 4 hours of homework. That's myth number 5. The fact is that we do require your student to pull up Power School, Schoology, and have them show us and you what's due for school the next week or each day. Check their planner daily. If they don't like the school issued planner, then have them use one on their phone or tablet. However, we have become this learning skill at the middle school where planners are being taught on how to properly use them, and teachers are checking them, if not daily, weekly, to see that students are putting something in it. But if they have a mechanism that's easier and they can prove that they actually know how to use it, we're open to that as well. Definitely teaching healthy organizational habits now. The longer we wait to do so, the more detrimental it is to their long-term ability to be organized, time management, etc.
So myth number 6, if your student is having trouble with grades, your best bet is to hire an expensive private tutor or go to a private tutoring company. Obviously, that's a myth. If you'd like to and you are able to, you're welcome to do so. However, we believe that we provide support for students at school that is free. So our school start time and end time has changed. So we always offer before or after school help with teachers. Obviously, because our end times have changed, this is still kind of up in the air about what it will look like. So please stay tuned, but there will be opportunities for help with school work. We also have connections with the public library for free tutoring. Your students welcome to set up peer study groups. They can also reach out to their teachers via email and Schoology with questions or concerns anytime as well.
My student would never bully anyone. There is a ton of bullying that happens at the middle school. Actually, that's a myth. The way a student behaves at home is not always the same way they behave at school. I oftentimes will say to somebody, you know your student best at home, but we know them best here in the building. We'd like to differentiate and help students understand the difference between being rude versus mean versus bullying, and being able to define the difference. Unfortunately, the term bullying has been so used throughout our society that it's used now to define just any time that somebody doesn't do something we like, or anytime somebody does something that just hurts our feelings. When in reality, it's actually much more severe than that. So this is actually a lesson that students will get when they come in as sixth graders, so that they're able to better differentiate rude, mean versus bullying.
Myth number 8, texting, instant messaging, Snapchatting, Instagramming allows my shy student to make friends they otherwise would not have. So obviously this is a myth. Friendships are not made through social media or applications. It's made through in-person interactions, and over time, perhaps they can be contained or continued through those avenues. We encourage you to monitor your students' use of these applications or social media websites, remembering that their frontal lobes are not yet all the way developed, and so don't always have the forethought to make good decisions. And unfortunately, once it's out there forever. And the school really cannot monitor the misuse of personal technology. We have a lot of students who are going home and making poor decisions on social media websites, which then gets carried into school and creates a lot of unnecessary drama. So the more that we can partner with you to support your students in making good choices outside of school or on social media websites, the more successful they're going to be. There's all kinds of parental controls. You certainly could have them check in their phone at night, and power down times in your home as well.
Myth 9, teens don't want to spend any time with their parents. When in fact, a common concern of students that comes to the social worker or the counselor's office is that they don't get to spend or see their parents enough. They report that they don't know how to have conversations or communicate with their parents. So in reality, they actually yearn to spend more time with you. It doesn't have to be anything big or elaborate. Maybe it's going for a walk together, or allowing them to select what you're going to have for a meal one night. Just providing them an opportunity in a more laid back atmosphere that opens up that communication line and allows them to talk to you about anything and everything that comes to their minds.
Myth number 10, my student said they didn't know, or my student said they were not told. So at our school, we have many different avenues for communication with you as family members and our students. So daily announcements are shared via our 5th hour block of time in the students advisory every day. They're also playing or have been playing in our foyer. It may look different next year. We also share information via Power School and Schoology regarding academics and grades. Our Oriole Time newsletter is emailed to you as a parent every Friday, which has information on what's happening in our building and sometimes district-wide. And then we also have information regarding registration and schedules for sports and clubs, which can be found on our school website. Just remember that if you have a question or you feel like you did miss something, to please have your student reach out to their teacher for clarification. You can also check students' backpacks for materials sent home. And like I said, please don't hesitate to reach out for clarification and questions if you feel like you have missed something.
One of the biggest things that partners with, actually slide number 10 there, or myth number 10, is encouraging your student to also reach out to teachers first. So teaching them how to advocate for themselves is critical during the middle school years. And so if parents or adults are constantly reaching out and getting those questions answered for them, then they never really learn how to do that. So allowing them to reach out and make those connections first, and then if something still isn't seeming right, then for you to certainly reach out and email a teacher or phone a teacher or the office as well. We are definitely here to support your student and partner with you to help them have a successful middle school experience as possible, and all the while trying to teach them those skills that are going to help them be successful as they leave our hallways and move into the hallways of the high school and their educational experiences beyond.
So this is typically the point where we would open it up for questions. Obviously, doing this as a recording, we are unable to do that. If you do have questions that come up over the course of the spring and summer, please feel free to reach out to myself and Teresa via email. They're here listed for you, and you can also find them on our school website as well.